Hi, welcome to week 1 of our teen yoga series. This week our emphasis is going to be on foundations. So just a little disclaimer, I do have cats and they are making a lot of noise right now. They're fine. They'll come and go sometimes on the camera, so you will see them. We're gonna start, you're welcome to sit or stand or whatever is most comfortable for you. We're just gonna do a little bit of background about why we're here, and then we'll move to the mat for a short practice. So my name is Crystal. I'm excited that you are here to join. I think that being a teen right now is harder than it's ever been. I have a little background in education. I'm a yoga therapist and a yoga instructor, and I really feel like this is kind of my heart's calling to reach out and work on this with you. So hopefully we can offer you some tools for better handling those teen years. And you're welcome to share this with anyone that you think might benefit from it. If you have ideas or questions or suggestions or things you'd like to cover, feel free to reach out. If you got the email from me, it has all of my contact information and I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. And always like input back from students. So part of our essence of yoga and what I'd like you to try to remember as we move through our practice, and they're also great tools for everyday life. Keeping in mind that we want to continue to focus on breathing in our practice as we're doing postures and in everyday life. It helps to just ground us and bring us back into the present. Feeling what our bodies are going through, feeling what our minds are going through. We're meant to have feelings, we're meant to have emotions, so not being afraid to allow those feelings to take place. Listening to the body, letting go of competition with ourselves, competition with others, letting go of judgment, again, judgment of ourselves, judgment of others, letting go of expectations, and of course, staying present. And again, we can come back to that breath work. We're gonna offer ourselves some tools for staying present, and we'll continue to build on those as we move throughout the series. So yoga is the union of body and breath. I always tell people that if you can breathe, you can do yoga. It kind of helps us just experience who we are. It can help us to practice staying calm, staying present. It's almost like a superpower. And when we have that, we can take what might be a negative experience or situation, and we can turn it into a more positive one. It can help us to feel less reactive, to feel less upset. And we call it a practice because we know these tools don't always come easily. But with that practice, we can more easily find peace or calm to move through our day-to-day lives. This will be a safe space. Our goal here is to feel safe and present. And again, feel free to reach out with questions or suggestions or ideas. So today we are going to focus on foundations, and we're going to think about kind of our basic needs. Sometimes we might come back to the idea of love, of warmth, of a safe space over our heads, of food to eat, water to drink, nourishment. And we're also going to talk about our feet today and kind of the essence of finding that foundation from a physical perspective, as well as a mental or emotional perspective. We're also going to create a mantra. So I invite you right now to start to think about some things you'd like to use for your mantra. We're going to use it throughout our practice today. So as we breathe in, maybe we think about something that we need to breathe in more of. And as we breathe out, we might think about something we need to let go of. So for example, it might be, I breathe in love, I breathe in joy, I breathe in patience. And we might breathe out stress or tension or anger. And if that's more than we want to take on today, we might simply use the mantra, breathe in as we inhale and breathe out as we exhale, just reminding us to offer ourselves that practice and that time. So you can think about your mantra for a few more minutes. We're going to add it into our practice here in a bit. We're going to come into a breath practice, and this is going to be just a simple, easy 1-minute breath. It isn't necessarily a yogic practice, but any breath is part of yoga. So you'll find it in a lot of other places. So as we breathe in for 5 and breathe out for 5, that will give us 6 breaths per minute, and that's why it's called easy breath. If you are a person that likes to use your hands, I talk with my hands a lot, you'll notice that. The hands are a great tool here because we have 5 fingers on each hand, so we can inhale and simply touch each finger, and then exhale as we touch the opposite hand. Inhaling and exhaling. It's a nice way to calm ourselves. It's something you can even do under your desk or at a table, and no one's even gonna actually know what you're doing, and it still helps us align breath and body. But you do not have to add the hands in, it's just something additional you can do. So we're gonna move through this breath practice. We're gonna do it for a minute. I invite you to close your eyes or to just sit in a comfortable space. I'm not gonna use the counts, but I will just cue you each time we're going to inhale and exhale. So take a moment here and we will begin to inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. And then just offering ourselves the chance to check in for a moment, see how you feel. Sometimes the simple power of the breath can really change what's going on inside. All right, the next thing I would like to kind of go over with you is movements of the spine. So I am going to do this from a seated position. We'll also do it from a standing position in a little bit. I'm a big proponent of moving our spine in all 6 directions every day if you're able to. It just makes us feel good, and it's really good for nourishing our spines as well. So you can refer back to this, or you can always Google 6 movements of the spine if you can't remember the ones that we covered today. And just a nice reminder that our spine is from our tailbone all the way up into the base of our skull. So your neck is part of your spine too. So if you can incorporate it into that movement, that's great as well. So we're gonna start with side to side movement. So you can reach just one arm nice and tall. You're gonna feel that stretch through that side of the body, and reach the other arm. And you can also kind of go up and over, just depending on how you're seated or how you're sitting. So those are the first 2. Up next, we have twisting. So we can twist 2 different directions. And again, this is one where it's kind of nice to allow that twist to move as high as we can comfortably make it go. And then the last 2 ways that our spine moves are what we refer to as flexion and extension. We have poses that we call cat-cow in yoga, but if you want to think about your spine kind of creating a C shape. So when we fold forward, which we spend a lot of time doing in our everyday life, that's kind of that C shape, that's our flexion. And then when we open, kind of doing the reverse. So I have my hands just kind of resting on the chair, you can kind of lift your heart, think about pressing your belly forward. You can even bring your gaze up so you're looking at the ceiling or the sky. Again, always in a pain-free range of motion, but just kind of doing that to open up. And that can feel really nice because we spend so much of our days in flexion. It's a nice pause to find as well. So great brain break, say you're busy at school or studying, maybe just take a moment to pause, tune into the breath, and find those 6 movements of the spine. So from here, we're gonna move to our mats or to anything that is comfortable for you. You don't have to have a mat. If you don't have a mat, you don't have somewhere comfortable to lie, maybe a beach towel, because we'll move into that before we finish our practice as well. So take a moment to get established. If you need to press pause, you can, and I'll meet you on your mat. Okay, so we are going to move into our standing practice now. I hope you have established a mantra. And if you decide you don't want one, you don't have to add one. But it can be as simple, of course, as breathe in, breathe out. We're going to start to add that mantra into our movement here. So as we find our mountain, we're going to go ahead. I have my feet just kind of below my hips that jut forward, spread those toes wide. This is where we kind of come into that foundation. We're going to think about tree roots almost growing down from our feet into the earth. I always like to remind people about the four corners of the feet, the base of the big toe, base of the pinky toe on both sides of the heel. And that's a nice place to just kind of establish that rooting, that grounding sensation. So take a moment there, maybe even just do 1 foot at a time, kind of focus on 1 foot and then the other, maybe feel a little weight shift. Invite yourself to feel grounded. It always helps to build our poses from the bottom up. So we're going to come into that nice, strong foundation. And this is our mountain pose. When we sweep the arms up, we call that our extended mountain pose. And we're going to add that with our breath. So as we inhale, we're going to let the arms sweep nice and tall. And as we exhale, we're just going to press the hands back down. So starting to move, little fuller breaths coming into the body. Big exhales as we let go. And then I'm going to shut the door really fast. You're going to see me move. If you'd like to add in your mantra here, this is a great place to add that mantra. So breathe in, breathe out. I breathe in peace. I breathe out stress. And then we're going to finish that with an exhale. And the next pose we're going to add into it is finding our chair pose. So we're just going to think about sitting back as if we were sitting back in a chair. And that's going to kind of be our exhale. Maybe glance down that we can see our toes. We still want that nice strong foundation. And we're going to use that inhale to sweep tall. And then with our exhale, you can press back down. You can continue your mantra here if you'd like. Breathe out, breathe in. And then we'll add in one more, of course, optional pose here. So on an exhale, we'll alternate those exhales. We're going to find our forward fold. So I always like to tell people, I'm going to turn to the side a little bit. We want to find kind of a hip hinge. So our back stays a little flatter, and you can think about creating a hand sandwich using the top of your thighs, your hands, and your hip bones. And that's where we kind of melt. You can bend the knees a little, or you can bend the knees a lot. That just kind of keeps us from rounding the spine when we fold, and for most of us helps us to fold a little deeper. You can kind of explore, play around with that. You can let your head hang heavy if it feels good. And then we're going to incorporate that forward fold into our flow. So with our inhale, we find that extended mountain. We can exhale to our chair. Inhale back to mountain. Exhaling to our forward fold. Just kind of flowing with ease here. And just that reminder, if you want to add your mantra in, you can add that mantra in, breathing in whatever we need, breathing out whatever we want to let go of. So from here, we're going to take a pause, reach tall through that inhale, root down into the feet, and take our time moving into our lunge pose. So I'm going to step my left foot back. You can do the same or the opposite. It doesn't really matter. So my right foot's going to stay nice and grounded as my left foot steps back. I always like to think in this pose of my feet being more on railroad tracks instead of a balance beam. So I've got kind of a wider stance here, space to just kind of settle in, finding those four corners of the feet, grounding if it feels good. And we're going to add a little bit of movement in here. So we might do that gentle twisting or that side to side movement, or even kind of that extension and flexion, opening the heart, melting back forward. Lots of different ways you can practice this. And then we're going to make our way from there. When we feel like we've done enough movement, we're going to find our warrior two. So go ahead and I've got my left foot back. My left toes are going to turn towards that long edge. My right toes are going to stay towards the short. So bending both knees as we start to create the pose so we can connect with the feet, rooting them down. And then if you would like, you can extend your arms. Or just like in that lunge, you can add some movement here, kind of shifting the spine around. See how it feels. We're going to connect with the breath and just allow ourselves to be present here. And then maybe that chance to slide the left foot back in, reconnecting. And then we're going to ease the right foot back. We'll just find that lunge flow, opposite side. Again, remember kind of that wider stance if it makes us feel more stable. As we create our lunge, we can hang out in stillness. We can breathe with our mantra. We can add some spinal movements. Lots of times we'll find we do things that are one side or the other. One side just feels a little different. Sometimes we feel a little stronger on one side. Sometimes we feel like our balance is a little better. Perfectly fine, that's part of yoga. Being present, letting go of expectation. And then when you feel like you've moved in your lunge enough, we'll ease into warrior two on this side. So letting those right toes turn towards the long edge. Arms can extend. You can just tune into the breath, find that stillness here if you'd like. You can add movement if you prefer. And then we'll go ahead and just kind of relax our arms. And we're going to step our left foot in, or our right foot in to meet our left. Find that nice stable base. We're going to take another big cleansing inhale here. And then with our exhale, maybe float our hands down close to our heart or our hips, see what feels good. We're going to learn and begin to practice what we call warrior three. So warrior three is a little bit of balance, a little bit of stability. I think it's a really empowering pose. It's a little challenging most of the time, and we're going to practice it every session and with some variations. So today we just kind of start with the basics. If you were to Google it, I want you to have an idea of what that would look like. But I have a table on one side and I have wall space on the other. Both are great props. You are welcome to move so that you can use a table, a wall, a chair, anything that works for you. I'm going to actually turn this side a little bit just because it helps me find some space and I think gives a little better camera angle. And I'm going to lift my left leg. So I'm going to root into that right foot, find those four corners. My left foot might just slide back. That might be my warrior three for today. I could also choose to reach my arms tall, or you'll also see versions of warrior three with the arms extended out to the side and even close to the heart or resting on the legs. So if you wanted to dive a little deeper into this warrior three, you might start to think about pressing that leg back. A lot of the pictures you'll find, they have their leg about 90 degrees. And then as you find that position with your leg, again, if you wanted to shift around so you've got some wall space, you're welcome to do so. We'll start to melt into the pose. Feel free to use that wall space to adjust your arms. Kind of just check in, see what works for you. This is where finding that nice, solid foundation can help us connect with the pose, tune into our breath, and then whenever you're ready, we'll come back to both feet, maybe shift our weight around. Maybe you find you want to switch where you're facing to use those props a little better. We'll start rooting into that left foot, finding our stability. Again, we might just step our right toes back. We can add the arms. That might be where we go today. We might start to hinge forward a little bit. And again, we can choose to lift that back leg. Feel free to use any props for support. You can extend one arm, extend both. Lots of ways to practice, but we're going to really root that foot into the earth. Find that grounding sensation. And then we'll come back, finding our mountain again. We're going to take one more big full breath, reaching tall in our mountain. And then with our exhale, finding another forward fold. So if you're carrying any tension or tightness in your shoulders, good time to maybe roll those shoulders out. Nod the head gently from side to side. I am going to come up back close to the camera. Take a moment if you'd like to pause. I'm going to give you a moment or two to set up for your final relaxation pose. So you can make your way to your floor if you like. You can choose to sit against a wall. You can sit in a chair. You might be somebody that likes to lie on your back or your side or your belly. You get to pick. We're going to move through a little guided relaxation together. So go ahead and get set up for that, and I will be right back. I'm just going to move closer to the camera.